Babylon, the greatest city of ancient Iraq and the heart of a vast empire, site of two wonders of the world, sacred capital and power base of the great king Nebuchadnezzar. Famed for its hanging gardens, defended by formidable walls and dominated by the ziggurat we know as the Tower of Babel. Babylon's splendid architecture and great treasures live on in art and culture.
Nabopolassar's hard-won victory against Babylonia's ancestral enemy was sweet. He jubilantly praised his triumph, saying, "I slaughtered the land of Assyria. I turned the hostile land into heaps and ruins." The Assyrian, which since distant days had ruled over all the peoples, and with his heavy yoke had brought injury to the people of the land, his feet from Akkad I turned back, and his yoke I threw off. In 605 BC, Nabopolassar died and was succeeded as king of Babylon by his eldest son, Nebuchadnezzar II. He had served as commander of his father's army and soon proved to be the equal of all the great Mesopotamian military leaders who'd gone before. One of the territories ruled by Nebuchadnezzar was the Palestinian kingdom of Judah. In 600 BC, its king, Jehoiakim, made the unfortunate decision to withhold the annual tribute due to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar marched west in December 598 and attacked Jerusalem, Judah's capital city and the spiritual center of the Jewish people. In a battle over 3 months, the Babylonian army proved victorious and took Jerusalem. Nebuchadnezzar ordered what is known in Jewish history as the exile, the deportation to Babylon of thousands of Jews, including the king and his immediate family.
Nebuchadnezzar oversaw the rebuilding of this new Babylonian empire, including the canals, temples, walls, and palaces of Babylon. In fact, during his reign, the city became one of the largest and most highly regarded in the history of ancient Mesopotamia.
One of the ways of stabilizing a conquered territory was to take a political elite and a social elite that had not proved reliable or cooperative and replace them with a new population of people who had no ties to the place.
Nebuchadnezzar had acquired an empire comparable to that of Assyria. Like the Assyrian kings before him, he devoted a great deal of the empire's resources to enlarging his capital city. Babylon rapidly rose to be the greatest and most splendid metropolis in the ancient world.
Those are really efforts that could go into the Guinness Book of Records. The excavator of Babylon estimates that Nebuchadnezzar actually used about 15 million baked bricks in his refurbishment projects of his city.
It appears that Nebuchadnezzar was a perfectionist. The ceremonial gate of Ishtar, with its magnificent carvings of sacred creatures, was rebuilt 3 times. The lions represent the goddess Ishtar, Queen of Heaven, while a demon called Amashushu signifies Marduk, Babylon's principal god and chief deity of the Mesopotamian pantheon.
From Hammurabi's time on, Marduk is one of the great gods of the Near East. He's not the god of anything in particular, but he managed to conquer the evil goddess, whose name was Tiamat. She was the goddess of the sea. And he takes her body and he splits it in 2. And with the upper part, he creates the heavens, and with the lower part, he creates the earth.
The Ishtar Gate stood at the start of the processional way that led to Babylon's many temples and shrines, and its crowning glory, the ziggurat. This was a spectacular temple, 650 feet tall, known as the Tower of Babel.
Ziggurats throughout Mesopotamian history, they're a sign of religious architecture. They're massive structures. They take a lot of man-hours to build. Only a king with power and wealth can initiate such a project and finish it. And the reasoning behind building the Tower of Babel seems to be personal glory as well.
Within Nebuchadnezzar's magnificent palace were the famous Hanging Gardens. They were said by the Greek historian Herodotus to have been one of the great wonders of the world. The gardens were
have not yet been found. Nebuchadnezzar may have built the famous Hanging Gardens, known as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, near his main palace. They don't look like much today, but back then, the gardens were probably made by planting trees and flowering plants on steps of a huge ziggurat. According to the legend, Nebuchadnezzar had the gardens built to please his wife, who was homesick for the hills where she had grown up. The gardens were planted on rooftops and tall terraces so that lush greenery hung down over the walls. And if that wasn't enough, a special watering system kept the gardens fresh and green. This is why they're known as one of the great wonders of the ancient world.
On the other hand, it is true that one of the things that a good Mesopotamian king did was cultivate royal gardens in which you could display plants and animals from the empire. This was one of the ways of showing the scale and range of conquest, and therefore giving a kind of living, breathing, green image of power.
Nebuchadnezzar died at the age of 84 in 562 BC. During his reign, Babylon's literature, arts, and sciences flourished. Generous state patronage, a strong economy, and the wealth of conquest gave rise to a golden age in Babylon. But beneath the glittering surface of society, all was not well. Disquiet and disloyalty crept in, and Babylon's next king would declare allegiance to Babylon's ancestral enemy.